Total non-stop deletion might have been the worst 2 hours of television I've ever watched. If I were to describe total non-stop deletion in one word, it would be messy. It seemed as if there were 3 matches going on at once, but I think it was only 2 because 2 Hardy versus Decay matches were going on the Volcano while Lashley and Edwards were still fighting over the TNA title, which I don't understand why they didn't finish it up. Maybe they'll finish it on their YouTube channel because I know TNA has a YouTube channel. Maybe it'll go into next week's episode. I think TNA still weekly. I don't know. This is like the first time I tried to watch all of it, and since I became a wrestling fan. So I get why TNA doesn't have that good of a rap, because if this is the kind of booking TNA always has, I understand why everybody's just fleeing it. The matches that happened on here on Total Nonstop Deletion was King Maxwell, who's Matt Hardy's 2-year-old son, versus Rockstar Spud. Then it was Itchweed versus Itchweed was really stupid, which I'll get into later. It was Jeff Hardy in a mask versus some jobber, and then it was Some Girl versus ODB, who I recognized from the Women of Honor special this year. And then Edwards versus Lashley, and then the tag team Apocalypto, which I knew I was gonna be disappointed in it because I heard the rumors about the Wyatt family showing up, and I was like, oh, maybe Vince really did buy the company after Billy Corgan bought it. Maybe after the lawsuit, he was just looking to sell it, and they're trying to keep it under wraps. So I'd be surprised and the Wyatt family would show up, and then they'd have this whole invasion thing on NXT. But like most things I've heard about TNA, I was disappointed. To get into the first match, it was King Maxwell, Matt Hardy's 2-year-old son, versus Rockstar Spud, who I've heard has a very small cult following, kind of like Cheeseburger or DJZ. He's kind of in that league. Not really Dalton Castle, because Dalton Castle has a pretty big fan base. I might have to look him up. But yeah, the 2-year-old beat an actual wrestler. TNA is just going the way of WCW, but much more quickly than WCW is. Like, I don't think they would have. I don't think even Vince Russo would have a child beat Rockstar Spud in an actual wrestling match. It's not even like the Kenny Omega versus a 9-year-old girl thing in DDT wrestling or PWG, and it's not even like Kevin Owens' son. He beat some wrestler, I can't remember, but it's not like a little comedy bit like that, like at like a house show or like on TV. It was like a largely promoted event, and I know that some guy named Benjamin, or I think that was his name, tased Rockstar Spud, kind of like Nash Goldberg style, and I don't understand why. I'm pretty sure Matt Hardy booked all of this because it was like too crazy. Like, you shouldn't give him creative control ever while he's in this broken thing. So the next match that was supposed to happen was Some Girl, who I guess is a big person over in TNA, because it was a number 1 contenders match for the Knockouts Championship against Vanguard 1. If you don't remember who Vanguard 1 is, it's the drone from the Final Deletion. She was going to face a drone for a title match, the same title that the likes of Mickie James and Gail Kim have held on multiple occasions. I know wrestling is fake, so I'm not mad about that. It's just I sat through and watched this crap, and I just hate wasting time. So I don't even know like why people still watch it. Like, I know the crowd was plants because like Eddie Edwards did like a suicide dive into the crowd, and they're trying to explain, oh, it was waivers, so we're not really responsible if they get hurt, but it was obviously plants because like later on there was like just no crowd there, and they were loudly cheering, which I didn't understand, and there was like barely any people there, which I think was smart because it was Matt Hardy's house, so there shouldn't really be just regular people there. OBD ended up returning, who earlier on I said I recognized from Women of Honor, and she showed up in her barbecue truck. I guess she's supposed to be like the female Jim Ross that wrestles, but uh, apparently she was supposed to be a face because the plants were cheering her, and it looks like she was going to win when Vanguard won came into the ring and started and like displayed the 1, 2, and then the ref pulled Vanguard 1 out of the ring, and then he started talking to the drone like, "You're not gonna count. You're not a referee. You need to get out of here." So, and then while he was doing that, the girl hit ODB with a chair and then hit her finisher, which was like a shove or like a little shoulder tackle or something like that, and it was terrible. And then ODB lost just like that. Apparently, it was only for one-time thing for that big event, non-pay-per-view event. I don't think TNA will ever have another pay-per-view again. I think it'll just be like their pay-per-views will just be like Deleted or Decay or like the Total Nonstop Deletion or Final Deletion or you know stuff like that. I guess just gonna be Hardy themed. So yeah. OBD ended up returning, who earlier on I said I recognized from Women of Honor, and she showed up in her barbecue truck. I guess she's supposed to be like the female Jim Ross that wrestles, but uh, apparently she was supposed to be a face because the plants were cheering her, and it looks like she was going to win when Vanguard won came into the ring and started and like displayed the 1, 2, and then the ref pulled Vanguard 1 out of the ring, and then he started talking to the drone like, "You're not gonna count. You're not a referee. You need to get out of here." So, and then while he was doing that, the girl hit ODB with a chair and then hit her finisher, which was like a shove or like a little shoulder tackle or something like that, and it was terrible. And then ODB lost just like that. Apparently, it was only for one-time thing for that big event, non-pay-per-view event. I don't think TNA will ever have another pay-per-view again. I think it'll just be like their pay-per-views will just be like Deleted or Decay or like the Total Nonstop Deletion or Final Deletion or you know stuff like that. I guess just gonna be Hardy themed. So yeah. So Tag Team Apocalypto finally happened, and it turns out like I pretty much knew was gonna happen, that it wasn't the Wyatt family. It wasn't even a tag team at all. It was just a type of match. It was just a new kind of broken name for tag team turmoil match. But there were some debuts in TNA. The Rock and Roll Express showed up, and so did one of the Road Warriors, the not dead one. So that was pretty cool, and I'll get into how they played out later. So Tag Team Apocalypto finally happened, and it turns out like I pretty much knew was gonna happen, that it wasn't the Wyatt family. It wasn't even a tag team at all. It was just a type of match. It was just a new kind of broken name for tag team turmoil match. But there were some debuts in TNA. The Rock and Roll Express showed up, and so did one of the Road Warriors, the not dead one. So that was pretty cool, and I'll get into how they played out later. So those teams started out fighting in the barn, but it went outside of the barn, and it was really cold outside because it was North Carolina. I feel bad for them that they had to deal with that. They probably added the volcano and the fire so they could warm up a bit, not get hypothermia. But I should have seen that coming, that it would go outside, because that's how most of the Deletion series has gone. Uh, but one thing I thought was really weird was that like Jeff Hardy took the ref to the field and on the back of his dirt bike. So as the fight's on the outside and the teams enter the match by coming through the gate to Matt Hardy's house, and while the Decay's right there, like I think it was Crazy Steve or Abyss, one of them, obviously because I said the Decay, snapped another guy's neck and then pinned him, which I thought was weird, and then it just randomly went to Rockstar Spud. who jobbed out to a 2-year-old child before waiting for his tag team partner. And speaking of people who are 2-year-old size, his tag team partner was Hornswoggle, the king of small style. Hornswoggle would later turn on Rockstar Spud after Spud kept making fun of his height, which I probably would have done too, but somehow small Hornswoggle, the midget, took Rockstar Spud and powerbombed him, and apparently that was devastating enough for one of the Helms Dynasty guys. This was inside the barn, by the way. Just went back. I'm just skipping a bunch of stuff that I'll go back to in a little bit, but yeah, they pinned him just right like that, and then Hornswoggle just like crawled out of the ring and waddled back behind the curtain. Then these two brothers come and they sneak past the Decay while they're beating up a bunch of jobber tag teams at the gate, and Abyss even hits one guy's head with a rock. You know, not a rock like I did for the Rock, but an actual rock. After the Bravado brothers sneak past the Decay, it goes to the Hardys fighting the Helms Dynasty, and Trevor Lee goes for a pin on Matt Hardy, and then a boat comes in and breaks up the pin, and then Shane Helmsley turns the boat over on to like where the bottom of the boat is up, and they actually start beating up the boat. All right, and then Matt Hardy throws Shane Helmsley into the water for beating up his boat, and then Shane comes back as his 3-count gimmick, and then he break dances with the other two guys, Trevor Lee and someone else. And oh yeah, repping the 0-13 NFL team. They're so terrible. Like this event. That was a good joke. But anyway, then he comes out and dances with the other two guys, and I was looking at this like, what is going on? Because I kind of looked up a little review from Cage Side Seats, kind of refreshed my memory, because I didn't remember anything, and sometimes I was just on my phone, because I just didn't care what was going on, because at this point I knew the Wyatt family wasn't showing up. But anyway, the other two guys super kick Helmsley for making fun of their dancing skills, and like I would say that TNA is going to ruin the super kick, but not enough people watch it to where it could be ruined. But after that, Matt Hardy and James Helmsley like team up. Oh, and I think he at one point he was Hurricane Helms. I don't know how they got that past Lego, but anyway, and then they like physically shovel dirt bury, and the two other guys, and they make a pretty funny joke that kind of made me chuckle. Not laugh, because it's TNA. It's just going to get a light chuckle out of me. But he's like, even the man with 3 H's can appreciate how well we buried this promising young talent. And they had like the shovels, and they're like this for like about 10 seconds. Well, the only thing mentioning after this was Jeff Hardy fighting one of the rock and roll guys on 2 separate cranes, and then he even did a swanton bomb off of the crane. And I thought it was like, oh my gosh, he either like died or broke his back on TV, and it was pre-taped, and they're still showing this. But if they showed the crane in a wide shot, but if like they added another turnbuckle, like a 4th turnbuckle, that's how high it was. So, even Jeff Hardy twist of Faded, one of the guys on the volcano, then he flew into the volcano, or on top of the volcano, and then flew into the ring, and Matt Hardy pinned him, and Reby announced she was pregnant. So I'm right about wrestling. Follow me on Twitter and Amino. Link they're in the description. See ya.